It's October, which means, of course, more horror movies than you can shake a stick at. And this month we have a ton of horror movies on Blu-ray. So first up we have that new title, 30 Days of Night, Dark Days. Now, I was super excited about this movie. 30 Days of Night is one of my favorite horror movies of recent years, and pretty much one of my favorite vampire movies, hands down. I'm a big fan of the comic book that it's based on, and I really love the movie. So even though this is a direct-to-video sequel, and even though it didn't have any of the cast members or the filmmakers from the first movie, I was excited to watch it anyway, because it's just a pretty cool universe, and I really like what they do with it. Unfortunately, this direct-to-video sequel, not so great. There are a few moments in the film that work, but not a lot. And there are problems with it that are multiple. For example, Kylie Sanchez, the lead actress. Now, generally, I like her. She's fantastic in The Perfect Getaway. Here, she's taking over the part of Melissa George, and she's playing this character who's so damaged that she's basically dead inside. Though the problem with that is it doesn't make for a very interesting character to watch. She doesn't really come alive until like the last 20 minutes of the movie or so. And unfortunately, it leads to a character that you just don't care that much about. And the movie's kind of filled with that type of character. There's something about the film that doesn't work, even though it's not a terrible movie. It's a little bit boring for the first hour or so, and it just doesn't capture any of what made the first movie so interesting. It seems a lot more like a rote, direct-to-video vampire movie that just happens to be set in this cool universe. Now, what I do like about it is it picks up right where the first movie left off, which is cool. This is a real sequel. It's not just a, one of those movies where they slap the title 30 Days of Night onto it, even though it has nothing to do with the original. So this one does, but it's just not that great of a movie. It looks pretty good on Blu-ray. Image clarity is excellent, but the colors are really dark. I have a feeling that's how the filmmakers wanted to make the film, but it is a little bit distracting from time to time. The sound is great, though. It's a really active surround sound mix, and there are even a few extra features on the Blu-ray. There's a making-of featurette called The Gritty Realism of Dark Days, and there's also a Graphic Inspirations comic-to-film exploration, which lets you look at how some of the key scenes from the film were translated from the comic book that the movie's based on. So, diehard fans of 30 Days of Night, I'm sure will probably want to check this movie out, but much like me, they will probably also be a little bit disappointed with it. Next, we have 3 catalog releases from Fox. They are Invasion of the Body Snatchers, The Return of the Living Dead, and the Amityville Horror. That would be the remake, not the original. Now, all 3 of these films are making their debut on Blu-ray. All 3 of them look pretty good, especially Invasion of the Body Snatchers. While it's not the strongest film in terms of what you're used to from Blu-rays nowadays, for being a film that's 30 years old, it looks surprisingly good. Return of the Living Dead is a low-budget feature. Amityville Horror, of course, the most recent of the bunch, looks and sounds the best, but these are 3 pretty good horror flicks. Invasion of the Body Snatchers is really kind of a classic sci-fi horror film. It's got a great ending. Leonard Nimoy is in there, and Jeff Goldblum's in there, Veronica Cartwright is in there, and everyone's fantastic, and the film really does hold up. I really enjoyed it this time around, even though I just watched it a few years ago. Now, this is a 2-disc set. It's a Blu-ray and a DVD, and it includes a ton of extra features, but they're all carried over from the previous special edition DVD. So you get a making-of featurette, a special effects featurette, a sound featurette, and a cinematography featurette, plus the trailer. And then, of course, there's commentary by director Philip Kaufman. Now, annoyingly, the commentary is only on the DVD, not on the Blu-ray, which really annoys me, but this is something Fox does quite regularly. Return of the Living Dead, of course, is sort of a cheesy zombie flick. Not as good as Romero's stuff, but still fun to watch. You do get a ton of extra features. You get an audio commentary with the cast and the crew and some zombies, an audio commentary with the director and the production designer, making-of featurette, another making-of featurette, zombie subtitles for the film. That's fun. Another featurette on designing the dead, a couple of theatrical trailers, and an interview featurette with the zombies. So that's a lot of fun. Next, we have the Amityville Horror. Extra features on this one include a making-of featurette, a featurette about the house in Amityville and what actually happened. That's kind of cool. Audio commentary by Ryan Reynolds and the producers, which is a lot of fun. A photo gallery and a multi-angle on-set peek. Now, the problem here, of course, is all the extra features are on the DVD. There's no extra features on the Blu-ray itself, which is very annoying to have to switch discs if you're watching the movie in high def and then moving over to the DVD for the extra features. So, not a big fan of that one, Fox. Thank you very much. Next, we have 5 catalog releases from Lionsgate. The Blair Witch Project, Open Water, and Open Water 2, which is a double feature, Hard Candy, High Tension, and 2001 Maniacs. Now, all of these films really are your kind of basic standard DVD to Blu-ray upgrade. They all look better. They all sound better than their DVD counterparts, but none of them are you're not gonna put any of them in and be like, wow, the high def on this is amazing. That's not the kind of DVDs, Blu-rays these are. The Blair Witch Project, of course, is kind of an interesting one. It doesn't really hold up as well as it did 10 years ago when it came out. When it was in theaters, it was really kind of an amazing experience, and I find that most people who didn't see it in theaters don't appreciate the movie for how scary it was originally. And I can understand that when you've only watched it on home video, but it's still an interesting film, and you do get some nice extra features. You get some, quote, discovered footage, which is about theories of the Blair Witch. There's a commentary with the director and the producer. There are some alternate endings and 2 featurettes on the Blair Witch and the Blair Witch legacy and kind of the whole making of and marketing of the film. Plus you get some trailers for the film. So that's pretty cool. Nice extra features. If you're a fan of the movie, they are here. Although I believe they're on the DVD as well, so you're not actually getting anything new. Now, Open Water and Open Water 2 is a different story in that Open Water is, in my opinion, a pretty crappy and overrated film. I actually think Open Water 2, Adrift, is the better of the 2 films. It's not brilliant. It has some real flaws with its ending, but it's at least an interesting and enjoyable film to watch, whereas Open Water, the first one, was really just boring. It was a neat story about how it got made, but it's not an exciting movie to watch, or even an interesting movie to watch. Extra features on this 2-disc set include a number of things for both movies, although much more so on the first film than the second film. The first film gives you a filmmaker's audio commentary, an audio commentary with the 2 main actors, Blanchard Ryan and Daniel Travis, deleted scenes, a featurette called The Indie Essentials, and a making-of featurette. The second film really just gives you a making-of feature, but hey, that's better than nothing for a direct-to-video sequel. Now we have Hard Candy, which was the first major film from both Ellen Page and Patrick Wilson as actors, and also the first film by David Slade, who went on to make the aforementioned 30 Days of Night, as well as the recent Twilight Eclipse, which of course is probably the biggest feather in his cap to date. But this is a really, really intense thriller. It's not a horror movie per se in the traditional sense, but boy, it is as intense as they get. It's a really good film. Ellen Page is fantastic here. Patrick Wilson is fantastic. He finally, early on, got to do something besides play the sort of smarmy, smart guy that he's getting known for. And David Slade does a really fantastic job with this film. I don't want to say too much about what it's about, because it's a film that's kind of predicated on the premise and the few of the surprises that come in. But trust me when I tell you, it's really intense. You may need a strong stomach for some scenes, although all of the major violence in the film, and there's not much of it, is implied, not shown on screen, which I really, really like. So if you haven't seen Hard Candy, I definitely recommend checking it out. Next we have High Tension, also an incredibly intense film from director Alexander Aja, who went on to make the recent Piranha, not so good, and The Hills Have Eyes remakes, also not so good. I wish he'd stop remaking films and go back to making original horror movies. This is a pretty good one. It's got some flaws. The twist ending of the movie, some people love it, some people hate it. It kind of requires a willing suspension of disbelief. But I will say, it's a very intense film. However, the one major flaw with it is that Aja loves gore, which I don't love. And so, if you're not a gore fan, you're going to have some problems with this movie, because he just goes overboard. And this being the unrated director's cut, well, let's just say you get a lot more than you bargained for. Extra features include the original French language director's cut, the US English dubbed version, and a commentary with Aja and his co-filmmaker Gregory Levasseur, selected scenes commentary with Aja and the lead actress, the making of High Tension, a building tension featurette, and a featurette called Gianetto de Rossi, The Truth, the Madness, and the Magic. Which reminds me, I forgot to tell you what extra features come on Hard Candy. You get commentary with David Slade and the writer of the film, Brian Nelson. You also get a commentary with Patrick Wilson and Ellen Page, which is really interesting. And you get a Creating Hard Candy making of featurette. There's also a mini featurette on the controversy surrounding the film, a collection of deleted and extended scenes, and a theatrical trailer for the film. So you get a lot there. Finally, we have 2001 Maniacs, starring Robert Englund. If you're familiar with Robert Englund's post-Nightmare on Elm Street works, then you know what you're getting into with 2001 Maniacs. Fans of most of Rob Zombie's horror movies and kind of that low-budget blood and guts gore type of flicks will probably enjoy this one more than I did. Personally, I gotta say, I was not a terribly big fan of it. And really, anytime Robert Englund is the lead actor, the highest billed actor in a film, you know you're probably in a little bit of trouble. Not the worst movie ever, certainly not the best movie either. Extra features in this one include director and producer commentary, audio commentary with the director also with Robert Englund, a making of featurette, a collection of deleted and extended scenes, outtakes, and an alternate opening with, of all people, John Landis, and that's pretty much all you get there. So if you're a fan of Robert Englund, definitely you could check this one out. Me personally, not my type of movie.